before we get on to some of the next questions, I also noticed that you ran Clash of Wills, which, having read it but not played or run it, I got my concerns about Clash of Wills. You like that one?
So that one I've actually never run yet. It is the one that I was going to run in North Texas, but when I saw the number of people, I thought, you know what? Why don't I just do the one I'm already familiar with,
Yeah.
and we'll let everybody play that. I mean, players aren't going to know, so we'll just play this one because I'm much more familiar. In reading through it, yes, it's got just as many problems as Fountains, unfortunately. I think that it's going to be a lot more of a social game, which I think is going to be good. I'm going to be probably creating a whole bunch of brand new characters again. I'm not going to create another 30 some odd like I did the first time. Because I literally did create like two of every single clan and then
Wow.
some.
That's a
So it was
lot.
like 29 or 30 characters I created.
Wow. Have you ever got to run the Transylvania Chronicles or the Giovanni Chronicles?
I have played in the beginning of the Transylvania Chronicles, probably almost the first full book. I own those, both of those, the Transylvania and Giovanni. Never run them. It was really, really fun to play. And I had a decent storyteller and it really worked out pretty well. I thought we did some really interesting stuff and he allowed us to go off script to the point that toward the end of the first one where you've got the seven cities, the Siebenbergen.
I have a
And,
map of that on the wall. The
oh,
Zebra.
is that what that is? Oh, that's
I picked
awesome.
that up in Romania because I've been to Brazov, Alba Iulia, Hunadora. I've been to these places.
That's,
Mediash, I went there. So I've
yeah.
almost collected all seven.
Oh, wow. That is awesome. How cool.
Transylvania is beautiful, dude.
Oh, I bet. I
Yeah.
bet. It's again, when if I get to start traveling in the next year or two, it's there's so many places on my list. But
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, so we several of the player characters got to be princes of those little towns, and including myself playing an Assamite who was the prince of Pest.
Oh,
Yeah, well, eventually Budapest, but
right. Yeah.
yeah, I was the prince of Pest.
That's important.
First Assamite as a European prince. Yeah,
Yeah. The
that's
longest
great.
running game I ever did was Transylvania Chronicles. And we went 4 years. And then I joined the army, and then things fell apart. And so we made it in that playthrough because I've made it as a player. I've been through all of it, but as running it, we did the 4 years. It was phenomenal. And I goaded the players into do anything that you can think of. If you can think of it, and if you can pull it off, then
Mhm.
you can do it. So at one point, the coterie had gathered an army of Zemisky and were assaulting Hyoris itself, and it took.
Awesome.
And they got to the gates. Things were going berserk. Somebody got possessed by Zemisky, who then flesh crafted like the horde of ghouls and other Zemisky onto him, and was like this monster about to smash through the place. But then the gates get knocked open. Tremir's standing there, and he performs one spell that breaks those bindings, and the whole thing falls apart. Then he has to run off, and Etrius comes out and says, "You get out of here, or else we'll finish this." And there's like 12 Tremere left, like 12 of the assault
Oh
force
wow.
left. And so they collected those who could still be saved and got the hell out of there. So Kioris didn't fall to them, but they got to give those Tremere what for? So did
Right.
it really change the canon? No, but it
No.
gave the characters a big bragging right, a big piece of the lore. And
Yeah.
just
That's
stuff you live
awesome.
for.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's something similar. He allowed us to do
Because
during that.
everybody hates the Tremere.
Right, because everybody hates the Tremere. We had a Tremere player.
Okay.
He goes, I'll let you like earn extra XP between sessions if you each keep a journal of your character's stuff.
I
And
do
so
that.
I still have it. It's a binder of about an inch thick of journal entries by dates and things. And in the beginning, he doesn't get a name. He is the warlock because I don't give a fuck about him and I am not happy that he's part of my group, but I'm like, whatever. Over time, he proves himself a loyal member of the coterie. And so that begins to change my perceptions of him to the point that he actually later on I refer to him by name. He gets to have his name in the journal. But at one point when we're doing downtime activities where it kind of fast forwards through things like, for example, the Mongolian invasion when the Golden Horde sweeps through Hungary, I was like, okay, so this character wants to find 4 of the most badass Mongol warriors and make them my ghouls as my personal bodyguard.
Nice.
Which sounded like a really cool thing to do. And he's like, all right, well, except that he was like, just make some rolls or whatever. Well, the rolls did not go in my favor.
I want to hear this.
So instead, I did get 4 ghouls. However, they were all very upset that they were now taken away from their daytime lives and plotted to try and kill me while I was in torpor. Thankfully, my trusty original ghoul, an Arab female who I was spending my XP to train the ghoul up. So she had some pretty badass powers. She was able to actually save me from them. And I was like, well, damn, that was going to be my, having 4 Mongol warriors as my personal bodyguard. Well, the Tremere spent the points to get a gargoyle bodyguard. So that was the only reason that I didn't kill him like in the first game.
That's funny. Since you mentioned the Mongols in that same game, since the players can be princes of the Siebenbürgen, one of them didn't want to let the Mongols in and had spent a lot of time building up like the military capacity and fortifications of the place before the Mongols ever showed up. And I said, okay, well, make your roll. See if you somehow keep the Mongols from taking your keep. And straight 10s do happen. They do happen now and then. Yeah. So there's that one little bit of flavor. That character could say, while the Mongols wrecked everybody else, they came to their walls, couldn't make it past, so they decided to keep going.
Yeah. I was going to say, it doesn't really change anything, but it allows your players to really get a piece of that in-game lore that will stay with your particular version. Yeah, that's amazing.
White Wolf could do some good games. They still had some issues with them, which we could talk about later. But did you ever get a play in or run the Giovanni Chronicles?
I did not. I've read through some of it, so I know what happens. Like, spoiler alert, right? Yeah. But no, I've never got to. It's been interesting, and I wouldn't mind. I would much rather play that than I would run it because,
So for various reasons, I've gotten to run the first part of that several times, and so when in the beginning you're collecting all the player characters together at the Giovanni Manse and the dinner party, that is hysterical. Because just to give just a little bit away for a 3 decades old module to people, is that when the players start the Giovanni Chronicles, they're still human, but they're being invited to a dinner with the Giovanni, and hijinks ensue. Yeah, I'd love to run the rest of it, and I bet that would be a good con game too.
It would certainly you'd have to, if you could do all the parts in the weekend, that would be amazing.